Does Riley play the typical hero role? Did he and Aaron rise up against the nefarious deeds going on this island? Or is it all pretty much the same as it plays out anyway? I don't know.
I mean, I think, yeah. I think it's
Ashley goes, this island's going to hell in a handbasket.
It's not good, you guys. It's not good. It doesn't look good for our team.
Welcome to Flan-Again, a Mike Flan-Again rewatch, brought to you by the Articulate Coven. For more information on the original Anne Rice fan podcast and community, visit articulatecoven.com and find more about this show at articulatecoven.com/Flan-Again. Welcome to Flan-Again, a Mike Flan-Again rewatch from the Articulate Coven. We are your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven. Ashley!
Joel!
We have to be sad now because we're going to talk about Lamentations.
Oof. Woof. Yeah, this is a tough one. A tough one for our friends on Crockett Island.
It really is. We're talking about Midnight Mass right now, by the way. We are the Mike Flan-Again Rewatch podcast. We're going to cover all of his works over time, but right now we're starting...
Very exciting.
I hesitate to speak for you, Ashley. I think this might be my favorite of his works altogether.
It's my number 3, but my top 3 are very close together, and my top
Fair.
2 shift. So I love Hill House, and I fucking loved that House of Usher, like for very different reasons that I love Hill House. So those two kind of flip flop depending on my mood and feeling how depending on how I'm feeling. Like, if I just want to watch, like, a good fucking horror story, then I'm probably going to watch Usher. But if I want to get a little bit more emotionally invested, I'll watch Hill House. And this one has just an entire added layer with this whole, with the whole religious thing. And it's fascinating to me. And in this episode, Riley in particular sums up a lot of, like, how I feel and how I think of things. So it's kind of, I don't know, there's a lot to connect to in this episode, I think, for sure.
Yeah, Riley's big speech at the end of this. We're talking about Book 4, Lamentations, tonight. It's episode 4 on Netflix if you're watching the series there. But, yeah, there's a lot to get to in this episode specifically. But the reason I mentioned the Mike Flan-Again overall oeuvre here at the top, I had a couple of interesting questions on our last video that got posted to YouTube. Somebody said, where are you covering, or I think they meant when are you covering Midnight Club? And that's another one. So here's the ones that I haven't seen. I have not seen Fall of House of Usher. I have not seen Midnight Club, and I have not seen The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Oh,
those
God,
are the 3 that I'm still... I know. The 3 big series that I'm missing. Honestly, I'm excited, and now I'm not going to watch them until we begin covering them. So when we're done with our coverage of Midnight Mass, Articulate Coven, our main podcast, will go back to covering Anne Rice stuff. We're going to talk about Blood and Gold, the novel that features the vampire Marius. Then we're going to do some movie nights. But this podcast, the Flan-Again rewatch podcast, will continue to cover Mike Flan-Again stuff. You and your husband Brat are going to talk about Fall of the House of Usher. That'll be the next project, right?
Look, we're so ready. We're like prepped and ready to rock and roll. Like, bought a fresh new copy of Complete Works of Poe, and we are ready to rock and roll with it. Yeah, I'm very excited. Y'all, I am an unabashed, like, Mike Flan-Again fangirl. Like, I will not even apologize for it. I think there's maybe one movie of his that I have not seen. Like, I am just real into him. And I love the way he tells a story. I just fucking love it.
This is also a sneaky way for Ashley and I to do a podcast about Stephen King, since we're going to get to cover so many Stephen King projects for Mike Flan-Again too. So like that, my thought was, once you guys finish with Fall of the House of Usher, we'll probably do a couple of movie episodes. We'll do maybe like Gerald's Game and Hush. That'd be a great example. Yeah, do a couple of those. And then I think probably Midnight Club will be the next series that we cover after that, because it wasn't super popular. It wasn't a gigantic hit. Like, honestly, we need to save Hill House, right? Because that's like the next one behind Midnight Mass. I think that will bring a lot of new folks on. So anyway, there's what you have to look forward to. Right now, let's talk a little stuff about this episode and the last couple. I've got some great feedback. I'm going to again try to sprinkle the feedback through the episode as it comes up. But this is just in general. Derek Lord, one of our great patrons, thanks Derek. He
Derek.
posted and said the sheriff is dreamy face. Also Riley's got me like, should I get a buzz cut? I love this show. I think it might be my favorite from the Flan-Again verse, and there are some
really
good looking folks. And I said, Derek, yes, it is a very good-looking island with just a couple of dozen people on it, isn't it?
Right.
And then he posted a picture of Raul, the actor who plays the sheriff, and he said, I mean...
And he's so good in this, and I love this character so much. And, you know, you see him, like, he's got some great moments in this episode, too. It's just, he's fantastic. He's really good in Bly Manor, too. Like, he's so... Like, he's so fucking good in Bly Manor. He's a very different character in Bly. He's a very different character in Usher. The character he plays in House of Usher is, like, obnoxious. Like, well, all of the most of the characters are horribly unlikable people in Usher. And so it's just, you know, he plays this very heartbreaking kind of lost sort of character in Bly. And then in this, I feel like he's got a very good handle on who he is and what he wants as a person. You know, he's not in a situation he wants to be in, but I don't know. It's so great to get to see this actor in particular play so many different types of characters in this universe that Flan-Again's created.
It is a wonderful problem to have when your repertory cast becomes too large for any one given project, right? Like he's got to turn down some of his repeat actors because he just doesn't have enough roles. I dig it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Periwinkle 000, new patron this week. Thank you for your support, Periwinkle.
Hey, welcome. Thank you.
And they replied to the last episode, the cats. I have a cat cuddle clone of my cat that I lost last year. Look these up. It was a gift from my mom after I showed her the site because I was just devastated by the loss of him at 18 years old while also still struggling with other hardships. When I saw those cats, I immediately thought, these are cuddle clone rejects because they are 100% guaranteed at about $200. Anyway.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Yes, what a hilarious thought. And it's like the cast-offs from these that don't quite look right.
These are the not quite right cat clones. She said that's absolutely what this is.
That's hilarious.
Okay, so Dani Canone commented on the last episode. He said, "Oh no, you didn't. My favorite movie of all time." To quote, "What did you do?" I was doing my best impersonation from Alien. What's the guy's name? Yeah, we were talking about Game Over, man. Game Over. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, was that Bill Paxton?
What's the guy's name?
That?
Yeah, Bill Paxton. Yes. I was trying to think. He was on Big Love. Man, again, Bill Paxton, somebody I think he's undersung, honestly. But like he died so young.
He wasn't
that young, but too young for him to pass away. And I think about all the work that he had still in his 60s and 70s ahead of him.
Man,
I think he's way better than people give him credit for, honestly.
Starting with Weird Science, which was the first thing I saw him in.
Oh my God, he was the older brother. There was like such a...
How about a nice greasy pork sandwich served in a dirty ashtray? Like I could quote so many of his lines from that movie. He pukes, you die.
Okay, so Dani said, minor nitpick though, it bugged the hell out of me how lame the wood carvings were for the Stations of the Cross from last episode.
Liked them.
I did too. He said, don't get me wrong, they're beautiful pieces, but that's not church or wood carving style. Check out the St. Wolfgang church carvings for the real deal.
Okay.
These here were basically comic panels carved in wood, and although they looked great, completely broke the immersion of the otherwise well-done flashback that was, you gotta admit, pretty cheesy and a bit on the nose. Dude also really shouldn't have watched Midsummer so many times. And then, okay, so I'm going to put a picture in here. And Ashley, I wish I had let me see if I can send it to you in the chat, actually. Do we have a chat here? Let me see if I can send you, so that way you can discuss it too. All right, so I just sent this image. So this is just one of the images. You need to Google this. It's called St. Wolfgang. If you Google St. Wolfgang wood carvings. Yes, right? Super detailed. I'm going to put this up in the video version, but if you're listening to this, just go Google it. St. Wolfgang wood carvings, and there's a ton of them. It's not just the Stations of the Cross in this case, but like they have, like this is like The Annunciation of Mary, I think was the title of this one. Anyway, there's a ton of them.
There's so much going on in that.
Yeah, incredibly, incredibly complex. So, like, very, 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 very cool. And I agree with Dani, honestly. Like, if this is normal, then...
Yeah, if that's what I was expecting, I'd have been like...
Yeah, I would have been let down by the old ones as well. All right, thank you for that feedback, Dani.
Yeah, that's...
Okay.
Fuck, those are cool.
I am very excited to talk about this episode, even though it is such heavy material. But because it is, I want to just get straight into it, and we're going to rip the Band-Aid off. The episode opens with this examination.
Yeah.
And Dr. Sarah Gunning is doing a little checkup for Aaron.
Right, we're just going to listen to the heart. Nothing big today. We're not even going to do an ultrasound. And Aaron was just there, like, maybe 2 days ago, right? In the grand scheme of the storyline, she was just there in the night. She noticed some spotting.
I think that's why she's having this appointment, honestly, is because of the spotting. Otherwise, she probably wouldn't have a follow-up this close. She's not that far along. No. But, man, right from go, when you hear the audiogram, whatever the machine is, where you're just supposed to get the heartbeat, she's got the little thing running over her stomach. You can hear the buzz, but you don't hear the heartbeat. And as somebody who's been through this process a few times, Ashley, like from go, I knew exactly where this was going. I didn't know why or how or what the result was going to be.
Yeah.
But I knew there wasn't a baby in there.
Yeah.
And boy, it is... You mentioned trigger warning last episode.
Yeah.
And if you're here and listening to this, you probably already know. But obviously we're going to talk about miscarriage. We're going to talk about fertility.
Infant loss.
I know that this can be so affecting for people.
Very, but, and that is completely valid, and we love, support. My God, 1 in 4, right? So
that's what I'm
here like, for everyone, you know.
Honestly, it's one of those things that makes me think, you know, like when they talk about like the astronomical chances of your existence at all, right? Like the chance of the sperm and egg uniting in the pattern that made you, it basically would never happen again, right? It's like what do they say about every time you shuffle a deck of cards, it's a variation on that deck that's never existed before,
right? In
history, statistically speaking, anyway. It's that kind of odds that we're up against to even exist in the first place, which all feeds into this whole thing that we've been talking about, which is like the finite nature of life, the difficult nature of ever even living on this planet in a human being body, right?
Right.
All of that makes this whole experience more precious, which makes what Pruitt is doing all the more terrible. But here we see real costs of what he's doing.
It's a juxtaposition, such a strong, like, gutting juxtaposition. And I knew, like, the second, like, just like you said, the second that you don't hear that heartbeat, I was like, oh, fuck. And I knew exactly what had happened. You know, I was like, he just de-aged. The baby got de-aged. The baby doesn't exist.
It's a foreign body.
So you're seeing, or even you're reversing the development of something. So everyone else is de-aging and having these miracles and these healings, but for a fetus, it's literally just cycling it out. It's like
out of existence.
Yeah. Like you've only been in there for that many weeks. Mildred's de-aged, 40 years in that time. Of course, that baby's not there anymore, And then it's just the fucking horror of like it just being empty. Like her uterus is just fucking empty. And when she goes to the mainland,
the mainland.
I mean,
your body and your blood say you haven't been pregnant.
You were never pregnant. Oh. Like, you need a psych consult. Go fuck yourself. Like,
Okay. But I thought, honestly, that's a beautiful image of what miscarriage is like a lot of times, because so many people suffer it in total silence. You haven't even told anybody yet because it's an early pregnancy and you're waiting or whatever. And then just about the time you're ready to tell, you have a miscarriage event, and it's like, so not only did I lose a child, and not only did all my hopes and dreams get crushed, and not only am I worried about the physical discomfort that I'm going to and the potential side effects that might mean I can't get pregnant again in the future, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but also nobody knows. It's just me and my partner, maybe, or me and my partner and my mom, maybe, you know, or whatever. But like, you suffer in silence. And it's like we talked about so many other ways with dementia and loss of a parent or a loss of a spouse or whatever. Like, the world keeps on turning. And the grass don't pay no mind.
The grass
Ashley,
don't pay no mind.
You've lost this child. Your world is over, and the grass don't pay no mind, man.
No. Man,
where's my baby, Ashley? That's the way that she delivers. Kate Siegel.
She's scared and angry both. Like, what do you mean? Where the fuck is the baby that was
Where's
just
my
in there?
baby?
Oh Lord, she's great in this episode in particular. She's just heartbreakingly wonderful. I mean, because she also knows that this baby saved her life. This baby got her out of an abusive situation. I mean, and I know for some women the reverse is true.
Sure.
You know, like losing a baby in a situation like this might give them awfully enough a freedom out of something that they don't need, you know?
Or it reveals who their partner really is in times of trial, or what they really care about in a relationship. And
like being tied to someone for eternity, you know, for the rest of your life, you have to co-parent with someone. And if it's someone who's a damaging person for you, that could bring about your destruction too, you know? So it's all of this is so hard and tough to unpack. And you're totally right. It is. And there is a shame. There's like this fucking shame that women feel about it, you know, like, oh, something I didn't do, or something I was supposed to do.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, like oh my God. Like the shit we put women through is just horrifying. And when you consider now that, like, if you're in a situation where you're dealing with this horrible loss, you can be denied medical care, life-saving medical care that could protect your fertility, that could protect your opportunity to have another child. You know, it's just mind-boggling to me that that women still don't have any sort of autonomy. It's horrifying.
Okay, I'm glad you brought it up, but I absolutely want to. I want to acknowledge that here too. It's one of the reasons I thought this was a good opening. Like, we are not a politics show. Neither one of us are political experts or commentators. We've got our opinions and our beliefs.
I mean,
we wear them on our sleeves.
Yeah,
we wear them on our sleeves, right? But on this matter specifically, I do want to speak because we are facing a presidential election in the United States, and I know that other countries have recently faced similar attacks on reproductive rights,
right,
and the protections that women have fought so hard to earn. In the United States, for decades, this had sort of been settled law, and it's been overturned now. And so every single state and every single woman is having to fight for their own rights. And this is not just about abortion, although abortion should be legal and available in the United States to any woman who needs it or desires it. That's my opinion. But it's not just about abortion, but because they blanket overturned this law without any consideration for what would go in its place, all over the country, women who need normal medical care for themselves and their unborn children are being denied it or pushed to the side or forced to wait because the hospitals are scared of what they may face based on these state laws that have been put into place. So if you are a woman, or if you care about any women, think about that when you go and place your vote this November, or early. Please God, go vote early if you have that available to you. And just know that there is one party which genuinely, desperately wants to protect women's rights for reproductive care, and one party which does not. And that includes IVF, that includes all sorts of...
You don't realize
all sorts of things that will help
under the umbrella.
Yes.
Like a DNC after a miscarriage. A DNC after a miscarriage can't be performed in the state of Arkansas right now.
Or Louisiana, I'm fairly certain. I think Louisiana has the same.
So women
it had the
sit
same
around,
trigger law.
until they go septic. You know, it's just insane. It's insane, y'all. It's insanity. I'm voting so hard for you and your daughters. I am voting so hard for everyone's daughters. That's all I can say.
Yes.
I mean, I'm gonna fight so hard for your girls. All of them.
That is absolutely that is absolutely the attitude to have. And I just want you to think about that. No matter what your politics are, what your religion is, again, this is a genuine life and death case for a lot of women all over the United States, and will continue to be if we don't solve it in November. So and hey, not just in November. Once we elect some politicians who say they're going to take care of this, we then have to make sure that they actually take care of this instead of holding it as a campaign issue for years and years to come. So
100%.
All right. Off of that particular soapbox.
Back to vampires.
Let's get mad at a priest, Ashley. That's way better.
Let's get real pissed at a priest. That'll make us all feel better.
Okay. Here's my question. Okay. Would Pruitt have followed through with his whole plan if Bev hadn't bought in so completely and then pushed him? I'm thinking specifically about the first time she comes in and she sees him. He's not well. They have the conversation, and then he says, I need to pray all day. And she says, okay. And she goes to leave, and she stops and she turns around and she gives him a little pep talk about the nature of revelation and power of God, and, you know, a prophet and the tribulations that they may come across. I wonder, would burning in the sun have been enough for him to at least stop and consider before he continued on his path to giving this to everybody?
I think that, I mean, at what point does he have to examine what's happening and realize what his angel is? You know, like, at what point are you like, oh, things are getting a little vampire-y for me, right here in this world. I'm getting a little I think I died and came back to life.
We got vampires in River City, right here in River City.
Right here. Capital V, rhymes with P, that stands for fuck.
Okay, so we had a good question on this too from Faye Q in the Facebook group. They said, when I first watched this episode, they were talking about episode 3. When I first watched this episode, I really thought that Bev had poisoned Father Paul. There was a scene of her putting the poison back in the montage, soon followed by Father Paul getting sick. The way that Father Paul dies is also similar to how the dog died in episode 2.
Yeah.
And the way the poison scene happens, there's a poison scene later in the show. Just more progressively. I researched online, and apparently both Flan-Again and the other show writers have come out saying specifically that Father Paul dies by consuming too much vampire blood. He effectively chokes himself on blood. I would say, if that's the case, they either unintentionally planted a misdirection with the montage or just drawing the parallel between vampire blood and poison. I guess in my mind, I will always have this doubt about Bev. Okay, I didn't even consider the idea that she had poisoned him, but now that you mention that, absolutely. Well, I think you and I were both so on this train of he was like we were so from go, that's a vampire box. So we were expecting him to die in one way or another and to have some sort of reaction eventually.
But no, that's a really good
interesting
point, because I mean, like, even when we were talking about it, that scene that he does die just like the fucking dog, but it is, you know, I guess it is poison either way. Either way, we're poisoning. But man, the idea of Bev Keane being that much of a fucking lunatic. I love that. I gotta be real. I love that. That's wild.
Well, okay, and I will say this. Before that would have happened, if she had poisoned him. I mean, and Flan-Again has said that's not the case, so apparently we're reading into something. But if that was the way that the show had been read, she already knew he was Father Pruitt at that point.
Right.
But young, right? She had already recognized the image. So, I don't know. That's interesting, man.
Well, and also I think part of the problem for Pruitt, too, is that he's been rationing it, too. Like, he's been rationing it, sharing what he had of the host. He's been rationing and sharing with the congregation. So he's probably not getting enough vampire blood to sustain him. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of feel like that is a little something along the lines of how he actually dies, you know? Before his magical resurrection.
I've got a question about that in a minute, too. We'll get to that, though, later in the episode. Mr. Finn, Daddy Finn here, trying to be a good dad, trying to reach out and make a connection with Riley, trying to apologize sort of in his own way. But he's just like, he's so clueless emotionally, though. He goes, guess you thought your dumb old dad wouldn't understand, blue collar, didn't know nothing about no start-ons or whatever. He keeps talking about how he didn't understand what Riley was doing and he felt left out. But he's cutting off Riley when he's trying to explain it.
Right. And you can tell that's exactly how the relationship has always gone. But yes. I would say, though, to just have this conversation is big progress for them. Because you definitely get the vibe that this is not a normal activity for the two of them to have a heart-to-heart. I don't feel like this father figure is someone who's particularly vulnerable, allows themselves to be seen vulnerable by their children in particular. This seems to be like a men don't cry kind of dad,
So... It's so strange to me because my father was a crier. He would cry in church all the time. He would cry when he was praying very often. He would cry listening to music. Which is something that's so true for me. I've written stand up about that, Joel. I have a whole stand up
bit about how music makes me fucking sob, and it's weird shit that shouldn't make you cry. I'm like,
literally just a combination of human voices, just multiple human voices together. Even if it's not a great song, harmony it's like literally the vibrations shake my heart or something. I don't know, man. And I'll just be weeping. I absolutely get that from him. So my dad was vulnerable in those ways, and he was emotional in those ways, but transferring that to how you made me feel, Dad, or son, I'm proud of you, and it's not about your accomplishments or what you do, it's just who you are. No, none of that. Matter of fact, I love my dad. My dad was wonderful in so many ways. I look back on him as a great dad. But I also do remember before he got dementia, at my sister's wedding, of all places, he had a conversation with me and told me he was disappointed in me. At the time, it was because I didn't have my kids in church, I think. But the idea that you would tell a grown man at a celebration like that. Yeah, it's New Year's and we're outside at a wedding, and you're like, I'm real disappointed in you, son. You just hadn't turned out well. I'm like, what? Anyway, my sons will never hear that particular phrase from me.
Yeah.
In that way. So I don't know, we're angling towards better. But Dad's doing it here. He's trying to do the work even though he's poor at it, right?
And he's very poor at it. And you can see that they have a lot of unreconciled shit between them. And I think that's the biggest takeaway in this scene is that, in order to fix things, they're both going to have to put in some effort, to try to see each other where they stand.
I do think, though, that the dad's sort of almost patting himself on the back for opening up the can of worms, even though he's terrible at it, right?
He's very proud of himself. Well, he should be. That's a good effort, Dad.
I think that adds, though, to Riley's general sense of, Riley feels like he's hit a dead end, and there isn't any way forward. He even says later,
I'm not going to leave this island.
I'm never going to leave this island. I know I don't make it past that boat in my dream. And I think his dad is part of that. I think the fact that he and his father can't speak to each other in a way that can allow Riley to move forward. Never, whether his dad moves forward or not, but he's never going to get from his father what he needs. Yeah. And because of that, he can't move past it.
Yeah, it is. And his dad unloads some shit on him. He unloads a lot on him. That's a lot that you probably know in your mind, and on your worst day, it's probably true. But then to be told that it's true, it's really. That's just really tough. That seems
you really
tough.
Fucked this family up, son. Did you know that?
I kind of hate you for all the trouble you cost me.
But don't feel bad.
The actual cost. You're a grown man living in our house. Now,
I hated you.
Your problem? Oh,
I hated you before you killed that woman as a drunkard, but that was a shame. That was on me. Now I got a reason to hate you.
Right. Well, and there is that reveal that somebody that could have done something like that, there has to be something wrong. And I know there's nothing wrong with your mom. So whatever made you do that is wrong with me.
Okay. This is why Dad can't be open properly with Riley, is because Dad's got shit he hasn't unpacked yet, right? You gotta. I literally had this conversation with my 16-year-old the other day. I was like, you will never be happy with someone else unless you can be happy alone. And likewise, you won't be happy with someone else unless they can be happy alone too.
Yeah.
It's a hard lesson to learn, my man, but like they got a hole in their heart and they need you to fill it. That ain't going to work. You're never the right size. It's not the way that human beings work.
And they may be the right size for you, but you are not going to be the right size for them. Like that is
no. Man, okay. We talked in a previous episode about how Sarah Gunning is sort of like our Dr. Jack Seward in our Dracula comparison.
A rationalist.
But boy, she's been intrigued with her mother's whole thing, and she's been looking at it already. But after Aaron's baby disappears, the investigation goes to 11, right?
She's like, what the fuck? What the fuck's happening here? Yeah, because like Mildred's now just walking around the house.
Well, and like clearly physically different, right? Like you can see her hair is lightened and is like softened and like
she's had this blood every day since he's been there. Probably
couple of weeks.
More than he's had, I would say.
Yes.
He's
think
definitely sacrificing his share of this for everyone else.
That's what I was going to say. For if later in this episode, he's clearly got the DTs, and I think it is because he's been serving Lisa and he's been serving Mildred primarily.
Yep.
Like we talked about in the beginning, he's using Lisa as a ethical prop for himself. He came back to save Mildred's life and to get her back. And to get to live this like
he's gonna fucking pull a Captain America.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back in time, drop off the stones,
and then get my lady.
Pick up my lady. Okay, so we have the exploding blood sample here.
Oh, I love that.
And that leads me to... I did too.
I love that.
It's a great moment.
It's just like one of those little vampire-y things that just... You're only getting a vampire movie.
So, but Derek Lord asks a great question. Do vampires exist in the literature of this world? My wife and I were discussing this. No one ever says, you're a fucking vampire. Right? Do they ever use the word vampire in this show? No. I don't think they do.
No, they don't. It's never used. Okay.
All right.
That I can remember. That I can remember. I could be talking
in
out
The
my
Walking
ass.
Dead. They never say zombies, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So we assume, and I know the fans have talked about this on The Walking Dead, or we did anyway when I was a fan back in the beginning. I know we talked about the idea it must be in this universe. There are no zombie movies.
Yeah, there are no introduction of zombies. Like
this is the first time anybody's ever conceived of it.
Zombie. It's zombies out there.
So do you think that there are vampires in the literature of this world?
That's
I just
really
assumed that this
question.
was our world. Honestly, I just assumed it was.
World. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is weird that nobody says it out loud, right?
Yeah, it is. It's just a little strange. It is a little strange that. Like, especially when we get, into the later episodes and everyone in town is kind of, we'll get there, but still, it's just like nobody's like, this guy don't look right. Nobody. The only one who does is poor Sturge. Poor Sturge looking at that picture is like, what the fuck, y'all? This is fucking crazy. I mean, if Sturge is allowed to say more than 2 lines at a time, he probably would have said, "I think that's a fucking vampire, y'all."
You guys ever read Dracula?
And I'm gonna say this about Sturge. This actor is also in House of Usher, plays like a fitness guru.
Oh, really?
So he's like hot,
like all trimmed and hot. Nice.
Oh, it's in like that transformation for me. Just
take off the beard.
Blew
I will
my
say,
mind.
The same is sort of, I mean, not a fitness guru, but the same sort of true. We mentioned him last episode. The actor that plays Joe Collie is like, boy, you see him in something else. He looks totally different than he does.
Yeah.
All greased and sweaty with the giant, 4-day beard or whatever.
Poor Joe Collie.
Oh, man. Okay. Look and see if there is any sorrow like my sorrow. Let's talk about Lamentations.
Yeah. Let's talk
Lamentations
about
112.
Bitch mom. Like, or can we have a fucking trauma off? What the hell? What the hell? Tell me. Oh, you think you're sadder than me? You think you're sadder than me? What the hell is that? that? You think you've been through more shit? I've suffered more for Jesus than you have. What the hell is this Olympics?
There's the great moment in Spaceballs when the princess is in the jail cell and she starts singing, but she's got the super deep voice. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows but Jesus. That is what this is. That I'd never connected the two before, but that song, which is actually like a famous blues song, not blues song, that's just like a gospel song.
Spiritual, yeah.
That's Lamentations. That's all it is. That's this verse specifically. So the Book of Lamentations is a collection of poetic laments for the destruction of Jerusalem in 586 BCE. In the Hebrew Bible, it appears in the Ketuvim, or the writings, alongside the Book of Esther, the Book of Ruth, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Songs, or you might have known it as the Song of Solomon. I thought that was interesting, by the way, though. Song of Songs, of course, the Neil Diamond reference from Holly Holy. But that's what he's referencing there is the Song of Solomon, which is in its original version, in its original title in the Catholic Bible, it says the Song of Songs as the name of the book. Anyway, in the Christian Bible, you find Lamentations right after the book of Jeremiah in the Old Testament, which is fitting because traditionally speaking, we hold Jeremiah as the author of this book. Scholars don't think Jeremiah, the historical person, actually did write the Book of Lamentations. Is probably written by a few poets over time, but there you go.
Well, according to the Book of Ashley, Lamentations is a real bummer.
So a lament is a passionate expression of grief or sorrow, and what had happened is the Hebrew people had been displaced. Jerusalem had been destroyed. The temple had been destroyed, and they were sort of taken into slavery. If you've ever heard the song Rivers of Babylon, by the rivers of Babylon where we sat down and there we went when we remembered Zion. This is what it's about. This is literally I think that might even be from Lamentations. So here's some cool stuff about it, though. The book is 5 poems, each corresponding with the 5 chapters in the modern translation. What is lost in the modern translations, into English anyway, are 2 unique features. The first 4 chapters are acrostics, Ashley, meaning that chapters 1, 2, and 4 have 22 verses, each of which correspond to the 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. So it literally starts with A and goes to Z.
Oh my gosh. It's
like, that's the poetry.
Write a poem with your letters of your name. Sorry.
So the chapter 3 has 66 verses, so that each letter begins 3 different lines. Okay. So the belief, though, and we don't know exactly why they did this, right? Because it's lost to time. But the belief by scholars is that they used this structure to express a principle of completeness. From Aleph to Tav, which is the equivalent of A to Z in English. That's in the Hebrew alphabet. So the King James version of Lamentations 1:12, which is what Aaron's mom made a cross stitch there, that's cited in the English language oratoria of Messiah by Friedrich Handel. That actual verse is in Handel's Messiah, which I was not aware of.
Like little flowers and shit in the cross stitch.
It's so absurd. I used to have
really beautiful cross stitches of like curse words that really pleases me. Like I love a really beautiful cross stitch that says fuck or.
Okay, Ashley, Kelly made one that is it's hanging in our living room right now. And it says, she made this one several years ago. It says, "Good morning to everyone except Vladimir Putin. Fuck Putin."
Yes, ma'am. Cheers.
Yeah.
To Kelly.
We're not political, though. Toby.
Ignore it.
Toby Krstevski, who is also a new patron. Thank you, Toby.
Thank you,
Toby says, I'm learning so much about religion and Catholicism from you guys and from Midnight Mass. It's fascinating the way that characters in this show interpret what's happening to them in a religious context. A lot of overlap between religion and the supernatural. On another note, do you know if Mike Flan-Again has a family member with dementia? I found the scene where Father Pruitt gets lost in the desert and cave and is in a state of mental confusion to be the scariest, most anxiety-inducing scene in the entire series. Absolutely feel you on that. You know, I think I've said this on the show, but I know I've said it on Articulate Coven before. I don't know if I've said it here. Since I was a child, I read Flowers for Algernon when I was probably
God.
I don't know, 10 or 11 years old. I read Flowers for Algernon. And that's not Alzheimer's, right? Charlie is mentally handicapped. They do a procedure. He gains massive intelligence and then loses it as the experiment fails.
Oh, that is oh God. It's so
the loss of self, the loss of awareness, the loss of cognition is absolutely my greatest fear. And the idea of being trapped in my own body without the facilities to be able to express myself or to even interpret the world around me is just, it's terrifying to me. So
it's awful.
I feel you, Toby. I don't know. Do you know if he has a family member who's gone through dementia? I mean, everybody does.
I don't
if you
know.
Get broad.
I don't know. You know, I working with like people in the public, like having worked in, in retail, having worked in theater, having worked at Disney, so I've literally on a couple of occasions have run into people that are in that situation where they have no idea where they are. They don't know how they got there. They don't, and to try to figure out the best way to help someone in that situation blew my mind so hard that I was like, I'm a really like I think through problems. I think of good ways to figure shit out. Like I'm a problem solver. And that just, the first time that happened, I was just horrified and I was scared for the caretaker that this person had gotten away from. You know what I mean? Like that's who I was like, oh my God, whoever this person's son, daughter, husband has got to be losing their fucking mind right now with just terror, It's horrifying.
My dad had just gotten to the place where we weren't, we had taken away his truck. I guess that had been a few months in the rear view already at this point. But anyway, we had a tornado come through Ruston, and myself and Kelly and the kids had all got out one morning and gone with the Cub Scouts to do some cleanup in a couple of neighborhoods. And for whatever reason, my mom and my aunt had an appointment or something that day. Dad was supposed to come stay with us. So I said, hey, we'll just take him. He'll come with us to the cleanup. He'll walk around with us to the cleanup.
Lovely.
Right, exactly. And he was always an outdoorsy guy. So I was like, yeah, he'll help me stack wood. It'll be good. And he did. We had a good time. But at some point during the day, I thought he was with my oldest son. And my oldest son thought he was with me. And he had wandered off by himself. He ended up about 3 houses down on somebody else's job site and was just wandering around in the backyard. And like they were trying to help point him in the right direction. We finally realized he was gone and went and found him. But for we ended up putting a LoJack tracker card thing in his wallet after that, just so we'd felt like it was a little bit more like, we tried to get him to wear a watch, but he would never wear a watch. I was terrified that he would get off somewhere and we wouldn't know how to find him. But anyway,
that's so scary.
It's real. It's real, Toby. And I'm assuming the way that you talked about it in your question that you have gone through that. So I feel you. And you're right. It was absolutely anxiety inducing. Man, I want to talk about this line because you mentioned it already. Like Aaron's mother is so fucked up in so many ways. Everyone gets their wings clipped at some point.
Oh my God. When did you get your wings clipped?
Oh, the day you were born. Man, what a fucked up thing to tell a child.
It's a fucked up thing to think.
I mean, that's true too. But you could imagine. Okay, so Aaron,
I think parenthood is a challenge on a lot of different levels. And I definitely think there are people who have had children that wish they had not. And that is something that they have to figure out for themselves as they go through their life. But under no circumstances should you ever turn that around on the child that did not ask to be fucking born.
I mean, that's the thing that you have to remember is like, no one signed up for this.
No.
I mean, to be fair,
she's just standing there holding a fucking bird in her hands that you're gonna literally keep it from flying, and like, even if she doesn't understand metaphors, she's got a fucking metaphor right in her hand. My God.
Man, since we've mentioned him before, I will say here, To be fair, the Mormons do think that you signed up for this. Actually, that's the deal. In pre-life, we all agreed to come down here as part of the trials. So
I did not. I did not agree.
Sign up. I didn't sign up for shit.
I was snatched out of the stars. I did not agree.
No. Okay, so there's this guy who writes, I think I mentioned this on the show, this fantastic birthday song. He did a whole album, one for every month. And for September's, it said, "Happy birthday, it's September. You were made from Christmas fucking." What's the line? "Happy birthday, it's September. You were stuffed into a stocking," whatever. But there's a line in the middle, though, that it's just been banging around in my head because it's so fucking true. "And just like Frosty, you were molded and thrust into sentient life."
Oh.
And I'm like, boy, yeah, we were. Like, nobody asked me if I want to have free will and permanent anxiety and cognition of what, like, the ability to wonder about eternity and where we all go after this and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, like, man, your cat and your dog are not worried about those things.
Yeah, I watch these live bear camps on explore.org, and this is like me and my nature channel. I keep a monitor up at work where I watch in January, February, we watch eagles, and then we watch the eagles have their nests and babies. It's bear season right now. Nice. I straight up watched a bear murder another bear on camera yesterday, and I was like, what is this fucking world we live in? Like, no one asked to be here. It's wild out there in the streets, Joel.
Man, I can't remember the song exactly, but there's a blues song that's like, nobody asked to come here, but don't nobody want to go.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
we
real
come
too.
in kicking and screaming, and we go out kicking and screaming, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's like, this whole conversation that Riley and Aaron have, like, going into
That's
that.
where I wanted to go next. Yes.
What do you think happens when you die? And then Riley rolls out this really, really kind of beautifully sort of scientific way of looking at death that also has sort of a kind of spiritual edge to it that I really love and I think is beautiful. Because I really do, I am not religious. I do consider myself spiritual, I would say, but not like in a douchish way. But I know energy isn't destroyed. I know that we're star stuff, like those are the things that I think are exciting and interesting, and those are the things that give me hope. The idea of that kind of weird sort of connection in the cosmos is what's really cool to me. And maybe that is what people think heaven is. Maybe maybe it is the same and we just call it different things. I don't know.
I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think it's the same and we call it different things.
Yeah.
Riley's got such a beautiful line. First of all, I like that he says, "I don't know." She asked him what happens when we die, Riley. "I don't know, and I don't trust anyone who says they do."
Oh yeah. Do you watch Colbert, the Colbert Report? The Colbert.
Yes, I do. Not every time
Colbert
I watch
show,
that.
his show, his current show.
The CBS show, yeah.
Yeah, so he does a questionnaire. Sometimes like a Colbert questionnaire, and he always tells people, once you answer this, you'll be known. So it's like really funny questions. Some of them are like, what's the best sandwich, and then he asks like apples or oranges, and but he asks everyone, what do you think happens when we die? And one of the best answers I've ever heard was Keanu Reeves, and he said, "The people who love us will miss us very much." Are you kidding me? God damn it, Keanu.
Yeah, that guy's deep like a river, man. Riley says, "One last great dream as my brain empties the missile silos, and then I stop." Yeah, the DMT drop. Which if you don't know, so DMT is the active ingredient in ayahuasca. If you've ever heard anybody talk about taking an ayahuasca trip, what they're doing is they're getting high on DMT. Ayahuasca in particular is ingested in a drink, and it generally makes you end up purging, and there's a whole lot of negative physical side effects. You can smoke DMT as well. I have never done it. It's obviously illegal.
I have not dabbled.
and hard to do.
You usually have to go to like go somewhere.
Well, there are a few, so you can do it in a
vacation drug.
ayahuasca and DMT both. You can do it, I believe, in a religious setting with certain people who have basically been given permission to host a service, and so you can do it as a free expression of your religious faith, and that's the way that you can get around it, even in places where it is illegal. But
I bet Joe Rogan's the one that figured that out.
I don't think he's the one that figured it out, but he has definitely taken advantage of it. But DMT, they'll tell you, anybody who's ever used it, they'll tell you they've talked to God. Now, God might not be a big bearded man in a robe in the sky, right?
Right.
And sandals, but they talk to fifth dimensional beings outside of our experience that knew things about themselves and the universe and whatever. And if you're interested in this sort of thing, I absolutely encourage you, Google like DMT trips and people who've done it, like tried to map the DMT space like it's a place you could go to repeatedly, because apparently it might be. Anyway, there's some very heavy things there.
It's very interesting. Like the whole dynamics of ayahuasca and how it works with our brains is pretty fucking wild. The idea that those I feel this way about cannabinoids too. The idea that our body has receptors that all they do is interact with this drug, this hallucinogenic, that it seems to me that there's something to that. I know there are people who think like maybe cognition came about honestly in Homo sapiens and other hominids because we were doing mushrooms and we were doing some drugs, because we got some good shrooms.
I mean, and maybe so. I don't know. I don't know why we have these.
Those over there killed Greg, but Ralph tripped his balls off for 3 days.
Ralph saw Jesus, man. It's awesome.
God.
Oh, we don't know who Jesus is yet, but he's going to be very cool, I think.
He's going to be chill as hell.
So I don't know whether it's like, I don't know whether it's a byproduct of our origin, or I think there is a more religious or a spiritual aspect to it, to like, hey, these things were left here as portals so that we can interact with God, honestly.
Which is
like
interesting
directly.
Thoughts, y'all. This is some,
I think it's very interesting. So the idea that Riley draws down death as like your body in its expunging of everything as your brain fails, it just fires all the DMT that it has, which gives you this dream to end all dreams. That's a beautiful imagery in and of itself. And if you've ever been exposed to those conversations about what DMT is and why our body reacts to it, you go, oh, well, maybe that's just the portal. Maybe that is our consciousness heading to where it's supposed to go anyway.
Well, when you hear people talk about near-death experiences or like this is the kind of thing that they talk about, and that's a very there's been a lot of research done on near-death experiences and what people see and how their bodies react and things like that. That's all very, very interesting to me.
You should go look up the research that Dr. Kiefer Sutherland did in the 80s. Very, very impressive stuff. Flatliners, I think, was the name of that.
Party with him.
That paper.
Yeah, Flatliners was fucking bananas. You're just gonna die real quick. We're gonna bring you right back. Come back and tell us what you saw.
So there's music under. First of all, I sent you a message. I think I was kind of bummed getting into this episode. I was like, oh, there's no music in episode 4. There is. There's like 2 songs, and I got a long poem that I want to talk about too. So this one, though, the song under Riley and Aaron's discussion about what happens when we die, it's Nearer My God to Thee.
Nearer My God to Thee.
Which is a theme that comes up several times in the series.
Yes.
But this is written by Sarah Flower Adams in 1841, and it was first set to music by her sister, Eliza Flower, who was actually a pretty well-known composer. Eliza did some other songs as well. In most of the world, this song is set to the tune of Bethany, which is what we hear here. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, Bethany also references the same Bible story that Sarah based the song around in the first place. We'll get to that in a second. In the UK, however, they don't sing it to Bethany. So Sarah Flower Adams would not have sung it to Bethany, and anybody else from the UK probably doesn't know that tune that well. There they sing it to a couple of different tunes, but the primary one is called Horbury, Horbury. That tune was by John Bacchus Dykes, and it's named for a village near Wakefield, England. Okay, so the song, the lyrics, retells the story of Jacob's dream from Genesis 28. This is the story of Jacob's ladder. Jacob goes to sleep on a stone, and he has this vision of a ladder that reaches up to heaven.
So it's not a hallucinogenic fever dream about the Vietnam War?
DMT fires off the missile silos. Yeah. So the lyrics are, nearer, my God, to thee, nearer to thee. Even though it be a cross that raiseth me, still all my song shall be nearer, my God, to thee. So I that's interesting if you think about it. Like, okay, in the dream it was a ladder. Even though it a cross be that raiseth me, I want to be a little closer to you.
Grim. That's grim.
Darkness be over me, my rest a stone, yet in my dreams I'd be nearer, my God, to thee, nearer, my God, to thee, nearer to thee. So this is the song, Ashley, that the Titanic band played as the ship sank. It's also what the crew sang on the sinking SS Valencia as it sunk in 1906 off the coast of Canada.
Pick a different song, y'all. Jesus.
Well, what's so funny is
come on.
The reason. So if you read the accounts from the Titanic, the band leader apparently specifically requested. He was like asking the people in the crowd to suggest songs, and they were specifically trying to play.
Die to.
Well, they were trying to play songs to take people's mind off of it. But I'm like, nearer, my God, to thee ain't it, buddy. Like, that's a sad ass song.
Yeah, that's like, you put me on a cross and I'm fine with it because I'm closer to God.
Man.
I was not built for Lamentations, Joel.
Nearer, my God, to thee is way different than Closer. by 9 Inch Nails. That's a different song.
God.
Just thought about that.
That's a very different song.
I mean, the chorus, though, that you bring me closer to God. Okay. Transition. Nearer. Let's talk about proximity. Here's something that I never have thought about until this viewing, Ashley. Where has Pruitt's guardian angel been?
Where'd he go? What he been doing? Where he been?
He hasn't eaten anyone on the island since he killed Bowl, right?
Yeah, we haven't seen him in a hot minute. And we know he hasn't been showing up. And now Pruitt's freaking out because he is
so
like...
He hasn't filled the...
I've made a mistake.
Yeah,
this is one of the... Like, I'm being tested by God.
Testing.
Yes, I'm being tested by God. I've got to be faithful and pray so hard.
So I do wonder, though, did the angel leave the island? I mean, I think he must have, right? Because he's been eaten.
He can leave the island because that becomes a concern later on, And
see, I think in good health he can leave the island.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I wonder. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to get a sequel series to this or anything, but I do wonder. Did he make anybody anywhere else, or was he just eating?
There were people on the island that were not associated with the church. Like, you don't see them very often, but you see
theoretically, we had somebody disappear, and they just don't talk about it.
Disappear, and we don't know.
Okay.
Like, it's nobody anybody talks to.
Right.
We don't see them on Sunday. I don't know.
And I mean, I guess.
But I do think
even in this episode,
leave. It would not have I think he probably has left the island and comes back. I mean, I think he can leave. It's not that far to land.
That it sort of begs the question too, and somebody else asked this, like, how did this angel travel with him all this way? And it's not, Pruitt sort of rushes over it in the last episode, but the way that I interpreted it, the way I heard it, Pruitt would travel slowly, and he had issues of his own because his passport doesn't work anymore, right? Even if he kept it, even if he had saved it, which probably the tour had it, but even if he had his paperwork, it would have been wrong. It would have been an old man and he couldn't come back, right? So he had to lie, he had to forge his documents, whatever. But I think the way that Pruitt implies it is he would travel small jumps at a time and then wait for the angel to catch up to him.
Yes.
Okay.
That's also
so it's not like
I don't think
he didn't keep him in that box
until he had to.
That's like maybe until to get on the island, maybe.
Yeah.
Across the water or whatever. To
protect it during the daytime on that particular travel. Journey.
Yeah. So I think that's your answer. I think he basically didn't travel with the angel. The angel was coming along behind him on his own. But still, I think Pruitt did a lot of terrible things to get him there. And I think...
Listen, yeah. I mean,
I think here he's wondering...
himself there probably. So let's be real about that too. Like... It's like, oh, I did all this shit to get you here and to give my people this miracle, and now have I been betrayed? Am I losing my faith? You know, like, he's on a slippery slope, as they say.
Okay, so Joe Collie has had a hard day.
Yeah,
he's having the DTs a little bit.
This day is so real, like, this day is real. Like those days where, like, you as an addict are having to really, really make the choice to not pick up something that is a vice, you know?
Well, I mean, and you and I have said neither one of us have had an addictive issue before, but I think about trying to get out of a bad relationship, right? And it's 2 days since you talked to him, and man, I could just text him. But like, you don't. Why? Why would you bring the demon back in your house?
No,
you know?
No.
And Joe knows better too. So what does he do?
Back on their own as it is.
He makes that beeline for the preacher. He's like, I'm just going to go to church.
Supposed to fucking do in AA too.
It's literally what he's supposed to do.
It's literally what you're supposed to do. So you feel that way. There is a meeting any time of day, anywhere. You know, like and I know in my city, I can look up right now, Google it, and find a meeting within the next half hour if I needed an AA meeting. You know what I mean? And so it's supposed to be available. He's literally doing everything right. It's what's so fucked up about all this.
And he knew to get out of the house too.
Yeah.
He just doesn't do it fast enough. Like he knew.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Pruitt's fucked up. Something's wrong.
And then he sees that picture, and it's like, oh shit. Oh shit.
Well, that's uncanny.
Yeah, that's If I was drunk, I'd have just joked about this, but I'm sober, and I think this might be fucked up.
So he's hugging him too hard. He finally breaks free.
Oh, that hug's awful too. It's so fucked up and like, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Joel, but I'm a petite female. I'm under 5 feet tall. I frequently can be overwhelmed physically by people if they hug me, hold me, and you can feel very, very trapped very quickly. And Joe Collie, even the size he is, this was like, for me, really like, I was like, oh God, I know that feeling where you're like, oh no, I don't like this, you know? And he's trying to get away from the guy.
Man, he falls and cracks his skull, and he's laying there on the floor twitching. And this is the most horrible thing. It's even worse, honestly, to me, than licking the blood right off the skull. As he kneels, Pruitt says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you okay?
I'm so
sorry.
Are you
all right? Are you okay? Are you all right?" You're like, clearly he's not fucking okay, my dude. He's honestly in death spasms.
Yeah.
And you were like, are you
good?
Okay?
Are you good?
You okay? Here's the thing that just fucking terrified me this time, and I hadn't really paid attention to this last time. Joe watches him start to drink his blood.
Yeah, he does. It's so fucking awful. Yeah, he does. He totally sees it happening.
You can hear him almost react to it. He can't stop.
Yeah.
But like he sees it happening.
And he's like lapping it up with his hands at first, like, and then it's like, and then pretty soon, Joe Collie turns into a human Slurpee. And we are literally drinking from the skull.
So the way that they do that flash, so like he's licking the blood, and we see that from above, and it's terrible, and then they go away, and then they flash back to the house, and he's holding the head, and he's just looking straight out the skull. Feels to me like Joe lived for quite a while.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think this is fun for a fun end for our Joe Collie.
But also to me, this makes it clear, like whatever else you think was going on or whatever, Pruitt knows he's gone too far now.
Yeah, well, he could have let him leave. Joe was trying to fucking leave. Let him leave. Let him fucking go home. Let him leave.
Yeah.
You chose to not let him leave. Oh, shit.
This is again, you might have a different interpretation than we do as far as like what Pruitt's mission was or what he knew or what he understood. Or again, if you go, hey, this is a world where vampire literature doesn't exist.
He is making
you can make an argument
right here
about his angel. But yeah, he knows who the fuck Joe Collie is, and he knows he's killing him, and he knows there are moments where he could have saved his life in one way or another, and he doesn't. Yeah, he just eats him.
And he should also realize that he's just straight up drinking his buddy Joe Collie's blood as well.
Just drinking his fucking spinal fluid, my dude.
It is
like what?
Intense. Like this. Oof. I distinctly remember the first time I watched that scene, and I was like, whoa, when I realized that he was just like slurping out of his scalp. Fuck me. Like that's a sight, y'all. That's a sight to see. Tell you, a sight to see.
I think it's interesting, and I think it's telling. We see a flash of Riley's dream again as he and Aaron wake up, and Aaron is now in his dream.
In his dream, yep.
Okay, so Pruitt is late for mass, and everybody is kerfuffled here.
Everybody's at church. Where's Monsignor? No.
So Bev
Father
sneaks
Paul.
out to go check on him.
And comes into this bloodbath scene.
So I love what she says, though. And I think it's so telling. You don't have to say a thing. Not you. Not to me.
Yep.
Not you. First of all,
I am a disciple.
Joe was there with a bloody Pruitt in front of him and blood all over his face and body and the floor. Would he have had anything to explain to Bev?
Oh, he would have a lot to explain to Bev and to our sheriff.
Not to me. I think that's the whole thing in a nutshell right there. And again, I think honestly at this point,
she sees herself as being right-hand man.
But not just at this point, it's not just right hand. She literally sees him as moldable now. Oh, he's unsure of himself. Excellent. I can grab him and steer him.
Yeah, I also know something awful he's done. I've seen it, and I haven't. And I didn't freak out. The way she steps over Joe Collie is so awful to me.
The way she comes back into the church and she tells the altar boy,
everything's fine.
Everything is fine.
Everything's fine.
Okay, so this is
everybody. Dolly's gonna sing a song about it.
Okay, so she brings Dolly up, and Dolly sings "We Gather Together." Okay, so this is Dutch.
I always thought of it as a Thanksgiving song.
It is a Thanksgiving song, yes. So it's a Dutch origin for this one. It was written in 1597 as Wilt Heden Nutreden, or Wilt Heden Nutreden, probably, to celebrate the right. It celebrates
I gotta say real quick, Joel. Do you feel like you're writing those little fucking like tiny reports we had to do for Wiley about the classical songs we sang? Do you feel like you're doing that right now?
I feel like I'm writing trivia questions for somebody. That's what I edit a trivia show. By the way, if you guys are into trivia, Trivial Warfare is the best trivia podcast in existence. I edit them and have for years. I'm literally editing their 500th episode right now.
Oh, that's
Congratulations,
awesome.
Trivial Warfare. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
They bring the pub quiz home to you, out of the pub and home to you.
I love it.
So it's like you know how like when you're playing pub quiz trivia, it's like there's the banter back and forth, and you're like, well, here's what I know about this, and here's what you know about that, and we put that together. They put some of that in the show. It's great.
Love it.
Anyway, I feel that's every time I talk about these songs, I'm just writing trivia questions for Trivial Warfare. So someone will use these at some point. But this was written for the Dutch victory over the Spanish forces in the Battle of Turnhout. In the U.S., this song is popularly associated with Thanksgiving. So the Dutch were winning their independence from the Spanish at this time. When this song was written, that's what it's about. Dutch Protestants had been forbidden from the Spanish from congregating. So the song, We Gather Together, even though it was illegal for them to do so.
Protest song.
It's a holy fuck you, actually. That's what it is. Yeah, it's a holy fuck you.
I love it.
So it's interesting to me, though, because this is a Protestant song. This is a Protestant protest song against a Catholic monarch, and yet here it is being sung in a Catholic service. One imagines that this is a song that's sung in Catholic hymnals if he used it. Maybe it's not. He just chose it because he likes the song. I don't know.
Yeah.
The modern English text was written in 1894 by Theodore Baker and does not very well translate the Dutch at all. So there's not.
I like
the song's not the same.
really wish I could. I want to hear it in Dutch now.
Right, but I need somebody to translate it for me. That's
I was angry. I want it to be like
we're
killing in the name
of
of...
yeah. So
excuse me.
While this is going on in church, though, Bev has called Sturge and Wade over to the parsonage.
Why do you call Wade? Why? Wade is not going to be helpful. I guess you have to Sturge his help, but like, and I guess Wade already knows that
Two things. First and foremost, he already knows that the Father has risen again, right? So he's seen miracles.
He's already in on all the shit.
But bigger is what happens in this scene. Wade pushes back a little bit, and Bev immediately calls him to task. And how does she do it?
Slaps him across the face.
There's such a great line. She says, return all his graces to sender then.
Yes.
But do not cherry pick the glories of God.
Yep.
Now wrap it up in the carpet.
She calls him it. She every
calls
time she
Wade,
refers to
dehumanizing.
she says it. It's so awful.
Folks, anybody who tells you about another group of people and they're all murderers, they're rapists, they're whatevers, that's dehumanizing, and it's because they are already treating those people like shit, and they don't want to feel bad about it, and they don't want you to feel bad about it. So they are making you separate them from you. And she does such a good job of it, honestly, in this moment. But that's why she calls Wade.
Yeah.
Is because Wade is manipulatable.
Yes, because you got this miracle for your daughter, and now you don't want the miracle for everyone else, or you think that this miracle is bad, but your miracle was good. Like, what are we dealing with here? Yeah.
Okay, but the other reason though why she calls Wade is because he adds to her power. If he's in on the
mayor,
if he's in on the thing, then they now have the authority of government to do whatever it is that they want to do about it. Right? Like, this is the thing. Anyway. It's a brilliant play from her, honestly.
In a larger place, Bev Keane is a fucking warlord.
Yeah, right? Exactly. She tells him what to do, and she keeps calling the body it. That was, like, very, very disgusting to me.
Well, and the other thing
he's a maimer.
Listen, she knows exactly what she tells them exactly how to dispose of a body. Like,
you roll it up in the carpet, you put it in your truck while everybody's in church. Yeah. And then tonight you take it out 5 miles offshore.
You got to put it in an old house outside of town. Go pick it back up, take it 5 miles offshore, weight it down. Okay, Bev.
Bev's buried a body in that bay before. I got money on it.
Yeah.
She says he's a maimer of children and a blessing to no one, and God has called in his debt. Boy, again, when you convince yourself you're on God's side or God's on your side, it's hard to have any problems.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to the AA meeting.
Yes.
I love it's a little confrontational right off the bat, because Riley's like, we're not even going to talk about the fact that Joe's not here.
Yeah. Well, it's like they're having like just kind of a chat at first, and then they start getting into the AA of it, and he's like, well, shouldn't we wait on Joe?
They do Serenity first.
Yeah, and so he's like going to start talking about how are your amends coming? You know, your step 4 that he's working on, which is the fearless moral evaluation or whatever, and then making amends. And so and he's trying to, like, because also this is not an easy step to talk about. This isn't a fun step for people working the program, and there is a lot of associated relapse when someone gets to this step. Like, it's actually very common. So it's almost like this very, like, evasive thing he's doing that is, to me, is normal. You know, it doesn't signal that anything's out of the ordinary in the situation, other than like, oh, maybe we could put this off a few more minutes until Joe gets here. And then he has the genuine disappointment at the thought of Joe already falling off the wagon, that he was really, really, really rooting for him and really wants to be on this kind of journey with him.
I love how hard it hits him. Yes.
Yeah,
it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Like, that's one of the reasons why the program has sponsors and sponsees. You know, you get that sort of like, you know, caretaking sort of thing going. Anyway.
let's talk about serenity for a second. So the serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So this was probably written by Reinhold Niebuhr. He definitely popularized it. He published it, whatever you want to call it. He was using it in sermons as early as 1934. It was adopted.
That's fresher than I thought it was. Like, that's a little newer than I thought.
Right.
I thought it had been kicking around.
It's 20th century.
Right on.
But it was adopted and further popularized by Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12-step programs. A lot of the 12-step programs apparently use it. If you think about it, I think all of the 12-step programs require a belief in a higher power, don't they?
Yeah, so the thing is with that, and I'll just speak to my personal experience.
Please, yeah.
I have close family friends ish, etc. who protecting anonymity, of course, who work the program and who have been in AA for a long time and have had great success with it. So, I'm sorry, I got completely derailed with my disclaimer.
We were talking about the serenity prayer and
higher power.
That you have to have a higher power in these 12-step programs.
Higher power does not necessarily mean God.
Right.
It doesn't have to mean God. Your higher power can be anything. Your higher power can be, I mean, like a friend of mine said, my higher power, I know somebody in AA whose higher power is a little hula girl that sits on his dashboard in his car, you know, like that's his higher power. It's just an accountability check. It's like an accountability check and an awareness that there's something more than what I can control out there for me, you know what I mean? So it doesn't have to be religiously aligned. It generally is, but I know a lot of people who are not religious, who are much more secular, that take the higher power thing to a more secular or scientific place. That Riley even kind of talks about that in one of the earlier episodes when they're having their first AA meeting, that there's,
rational rehab or something like that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of approach that sort of higher power concept. I mean, especially for someone like Riley, who is not necessarily, who presents as an atheist or an agnostic on a good hopeful day for him.
Yeah. Man, my computer just gave me a warning that my hard drive was almost full, so I was trying to throw away a bunch of old files. This is a problem when you make video for a living, guys, and you have a computer that is just constantly full of
we've
works
had
in progress.
Our memories and storage.
I was thinking today, when I buy my next computer, I'm going to need a 4 terabyte hard drive, and that is a really sad situation. Anyway, okay. We were talking about serenity, though.
Serenity, higher power.
I love the idea of it, but I want to call specific acknowledgement to it here because I think it is important that it comes up right before Father Paul lies to Riley here. Mm-hmm. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Father Paul lies to Riley, and Riley knows it. Joe told him last night, my sister's dead, and it's a shame because I never could have gone to see her before, but I think I could now.
Yeah. She
right?
died
I think I could go visit her.
I think he says.
Just died.
So it's also when Father Paul is out of town. So when Monsignor Pruitt is not there, when he's on his trip. So he does not know.
And nobody gives a shit about Joe Colley, so nobody would have told him.
Nobody would have told him. Nobody knew but Riley. So, this is like such a great tell. And I'm glad Riley doesn't let it go, Like this is the point that Riley chooses. He's felt like something's off. He's felt, like thinking he's seeing Monsignor Pruitt out on the running on the beach, and all the kind of strange things that have been happening in town. Erin's fucking crazy miscarriage where her baby just disappears and there's like no evidence that it ever happened. His dad's back's fine and trying to talk to him about emotions. His mom's not wearing her glasses and fucking Lisa's walking around. But it's important to call this out because it is a lie. It is a lie. And not a lie of omission, a fucking lie.
And I think literally we see him, he goes and he sees mom and dad, and he talks to his mom about Father Paul lying, and then he goes to Aaron's house, and he's standing there in front of the house, and I literally think, Ashley, he's weighing it. He goes, is this a thing I can change, or is this a thing I have to accept? And he decides he's not sure. I gotta go find out.
I at least want more information. I need to figure out. And if something weird's going on with Joe, I should probably know to help support and etc.
Yeah,
like
but the way he puts it to his mom, I thought is so beautiful. She's talking about what a saint Father Paul is, and he says, "Mom, I don't know a lot of things, but I know this: he's a liar. He lied to me tonight, Mom. I'm just asking you to be careful, please."
Yeah.
It's crazy because the way he talks to his mother there, it's like he knows he's not coming back. And he doesn't. He's not. He thinks he's going to go to Aaron's tonight at that point. Like, it's not even going to be a thing.
He's going to spend the night. He's having a sleepover.
Yeah, probably finally go get some booty. Maybe. I will say this. Even as much, like, I know what they're going through when they're laying there together the first time, but I did think Aaron hasn't had a good relationship in 20 years probably at this point. And
since the last time she dated Riley.
And Riley's been in prison, so they would totally have fucked that night, I think, probably.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Or at least she was excited to have him back the next night. Let's say that.
Yeah, exactly. She was like, will you come back tomorrow night? Which is very true. She was definitely like, come back tomorrow if you like. Yeah. And then instead of going to the pretty girl's house, he goes to the rec room.
Okay, I wonder though, what would have happened? Let's take an alternate universe take. What happens if he just stays at Aaron's house that night? Does Riley, in the rest of this series, does Riley play the typical hero role? Did he and Aaron rise up against the nefarious deeds going on this island? Or is it all pretty much the same as it plays out anyway? I don't know.
I mean, I think, yeah. I think it.
Ashley goes, this island's going to hell in a handbasket.
It's not good, you guys. It's not good. It doesn't look good for our team. I think that the same thing would have happened in a different way or a little bit later. And I also do think that Riley's, well, we'll get into that next episode. I don't want to get into that right now.
Yes. Good call.
Yeah, I was about to throw up a huge spoiler and then give you all my opinions about what happens next. No, stop it, Ashley.
Listen, I do know many of you are binging this, going ahead and watching ahead, and I don't blame you. Like, it's absolutely that kind of show. We will save our conversation for those of you who haven't been spoiled yet. Yeah,
we don't want to spoil it.
Boy, so good, though. I'm so thoroughly enjoying going through this piece by piece and really breaking it down. So thank you all for making it possible. Speaking of making it possible, we do have a Patreon now. You can go to articulatecoven.com/join, $2 a month or more. You can become a member there, and you get access to all of our content early and ad-free, and we've got reaction videos and all sorts of stuff. Ashley mentioned earlier she and Brat are going to be doing Fall of the House of Usher coverage for Flan-Again. You can get those episodes 2 weeks early on our Patreon. Couple of new Patreon members added lately, and one of the features in Patreon when you join gives you a little survey, and it asks why did you join, and there's a handful of answers there. A lot of people have answered that. You can also leave a comment. A couple of people did. I thought these were cool. Brittany Cavness joined as a maker. Thank you, Brittany.
Hi, Brittany.
Brittany says, I'm so excited that you'll be covering the Mike Flan-Again shows. They are a great addition to the horror genre with truly likable characters and awesome character development. I adore your Anne Rice podcast. I've been looking for something like this for 10 years. Keep doing the good work. Oh, thank you, Brittany.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so nice.
That genuinely, Ashley and I have loved doing this stuff about Anne Rice so much.
Yeah.
And Mike Flan-Again is one of those other few creators that we would really like to do that same thing again.
Yeah.
So
I can talk
thank
about
you for making
Mike
it all
Flan-Again,
possible.
Stephen King, Anne Rice, all day, every day, 8 days a week, if someone would want to listen to me. Fortunately, Joel does, and apparently some of you as well. So.
I loves it.
We do.
Lorianne O'Malia joined as a Children of the Millennia actually last week, and she says, I love listening to both of you, your take on the novels, the TV shows, and I love hearing about your theater background. Also love NOLA history. Hope you're both very successful with this podcast. Your former Catholic Church organist who played the the organ at quite a few midnight masses, Lorianne.
Ooh, fantastic.
I believe Lorianne was the one that had written in last week talking about her mother recognizing the songs in Midnight Mass in the background. I think that was Lorianne. Thank you for that, Lorianne. Appreciate that. And thanks to everybody who's joined the Patreon.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
It's we're over 30 paid members now. We're like 45 members total have joined. It really means a lot to us. And I will say, those of you who have joined at the $5 and $10 level a month, a lot of you already have voted, but if you haven't, go and check out the Patreon right now. There's a post up with a poll for the movies that we're going to be covering during our upcoming movie nights on Articulate Coven. I will tell you the leading one.
Oh, what's the leading one? Just a reminder that Salem's Lot comes out in 2 days. Well, it won't be 2 days from here, but comes out on October 3rd.
So, by the time you're listening to this, it is available now on Max. The leader for the movie nights, and I was actually surprised by this, is Let the Right One In. I
love that one.
I think it's a Dutch film. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do the original version. That one I'm sure will make it into the final count. But the one that was very surprising to me, and I think this is the second highest vote getter so far, Underworld. Yeah, Kelly's in the background dancing. Underworld was her suggestion, honestly. She was a big fan of that one. Yeah.
I forgot those even existed.
And that's a whole series too. So if people like it, we could go back to the well and do the other ones later. Right? Yes, Kate Beckinsale, and it's her husband that directs them, I think. Isn't it?
Those movies are so fun and badass. Ooh, I love that that's on the list.
Well, and they're very different too than most of the vampire stuff that we've covered in the past. So that's good. From Dusk Till Dawn is getting a lot of votes right now. That's probably going to end up in the running too. So. Yeah. Anyway, go check that out if you're a patron. And if you're not a patron yet, there you go. You still got time. We're going to close the voting down towards the end of October, and then we'll have all of our movie nights in November and December. So that's what's up next for us. Thank you all so much for making this all possible. Thank you for listening and watching the videos and the whole 9 yards. We're really enjoying doing it. And we'll be back again next week to talk about book 5, The Gospel.
You guys.
I mean, I understand why, because of the nature of the episodes, but it always did strike me as weird to put the gospel after Lamentations, right after Lamentations.
Well,
it's the Lamentations and then the good news. That's strange.
We're about to learn, Joel. We're about to learn. So here we go.
All right. Go watch the Gospel, book 5 of Midnight Mass. And until then, we have been your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven. Thank you for watching Flan-Again, a Mike Flan-Again rewatch from the Articulate Coven. If you want our videos and audio early and ad-free, visit articulatecoven.com/join and join the Coven.